Let's talk about it ourselves right now as we welcome in Bob Kolasky. Bob is Senior Vice President of Critical Infrastructure at Exiger, which is an AI supply chain firm, so years of experience in cybersecurity and the like. So they say they have the framework of a deal put in place here. This was, you heard the president talking about the politics of, how TikTok has helped him politically, and probably did with young people, and, he gave Charlie Kirk credit. We get it. But what about, this was a national security story. It was a national security issue. And that was the whole point of talking about it. And people wanted it banned and all the rest. Still is, right? I mean, what should we be thinking about?
It definitely is, Connell. It's still a national security story. China is one of our principal national security adversaries right now. And they're looking at, the Chinese government is looking at ways to undermine America. When the president's talking about a framework for a deal, the things we should be looking at within the deal are, what are we doing about American information and information about American users, and making sure that the Chinese government doesn't have access to that information? What are we doing about the algorithm, making sure the Chinese government has no influence and control over the algorithm itself? And so those are the two things that are the biggest national security concern. So any framework of a deal, which could be a very good thing, as the president said, has to take the Chinese government out of having any influence over ByteDance, who has control of the algorithm and the information that's collected via TikTok. And so that's got to be the key to the framework, Connell.
This all started with Scott Bessent, who's oversees the Treasury Secretary. He says the president and Xi Jinping, the president of China, are going to talk about this on the phone on Friday. But here's what Bessent said earlier today about what's in place, what they have.
We have a framework for a TikTok deal. The two leaders, President Trump and Party Chair Xi, will speak on Friday to complete the deal, but we do have a framework for a deal with TikTok.
When you talk about algorithms, which is what you were speaking about a moment ago, and who would have access to them, what are you concerned about in terms of how they could structure it? Because that's the key. That's what makes TikTok so successful or so popular. It's algorithm.
Yeah, and the algorithm is what information gets fed to the user, right? And if there is influence by the Chinese government in terms of information that gets fed to the users, and they're trying to use, and TikTok's being used to feed misinformation, disinformation that's linked to the Chinese government. That's what I'm concerned about.
But if an American buyer comes in, and your point is that they have to buy that. They have to have the algorithm in their control. And
they have to have control of it. I mean, the Chinese aren't going to sell the whole algorithm to TikTok, or ByteDance won't sell the whole thing, but they have to have control how it is used in the United States.
Would that mean that none of it goes back, or some of it, but it would still have, the Chinese would have access? So like ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, would have access, and therefore the concern would be that the Communist Party could have access whenever it wants.
The legislative intent is clearly to make sure the Chinese government doesn't have access, and so whatever the deal is needs to have that structure put in place. I mean, I like that Congress has given the president leverage and the administration leverage to negotiate a deal to assuage the national security concerns I have, but I want to see what's in the details.
Devil's in the details type of thing, right? But it could be a situation where it's sold as, all right, now it's an American company, so to speak. But your point is, like, it's never going to be completely an American company because China just won't let that happen.
There need to be the guardrails in place. I'm not sure I'm that pessimistic. I mean, TikTok will never be completely an American.
Right.
The ByteDance will never be an American company, right? How TikTok gets used in the West and in the United States is what we're looking at.
If it's completely spun off from ByteDance, or there's part of it that stays. One more clip from the president moments ago on this big call he's supposed to have Friday with Xi Jinping. Here's what he said.
We had a very good meeting with China. I was surprised. I didn't expect it to that extent. And I'm going to speak again with President Xi on Friday, and I think that'll confirm things up.
All right, firm things up or confirm things up. All right, Bob. So let's make that the final word from your perspective. Again, you're watching these national security issues, cyber issues. What's the big thing to watch other than just the structure of this TikTok deal with Xi Jinping and Trump on Friday?
I mean, what else is on the agenda? I am sure that NVIDIA will be on the agenda.
NVIDIA,
sure export
right?
Controls. Yeah,
they're going after them for antitrust. Apparently, China is that.
Yes.
But the export controls.
Export controls and access to each other's technology. Tariffs will be on the agenda. I don't think cybersecurity will be on the agenda on Friday, but it has to be on the agenda in any longer talk between the U.S. and China. And I hope the president is willing to take up the issues of China spying on America via cyber means as part of any if he's moving toward a grand bargain, we have to have that conversation.
All right. Always appreciate your expertise, Bob, on all these issues. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks,
for
Connell.
joining us tonight,
Talk to you.
Bob Kolasky.